Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Sharpest football contest show in the land. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season.
Good Monday morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to be back with you here. A full week of shows, another football week ahead of us in college football. And of course, the NFL putting the final touches on the rosters. The first NFL game is a week from Thursday, Labor Day weekend coming up as well. Thanks for being part of our program today. We're going to have Jacob Camenker from Sporting News talk a little National Football League. Is there another quarterback change headed our way over the next couple of days? We'll talk to him and find out. Pat Evans joins us from Legal Sports Report, and we'll dive into the latest in sports betting going on across the country and also Canada as well. And also diving in a little bit deeper to the season win total and what the expectations will be for the Denver Broncos season, which is a little bit over a week and a half away. So those are some of the things that we're focused on here today. And as I mentioned, we're talking quarterbacks here at the top of the show. In case you missed it, the final NFL preseason game was played last night. And the New England Patriots, quite the scare happened with them. Their offensive line apparently forgot to block anybody. And their starting quarterback in that game, Jacoby Brissett, was injured in the game and had to leave. Now, it's a little complicated here because Drake May came in, the rookie who was drafted in the first round, and played very well. In fact, he looked as good as any quarterback has on the Patriots this preseason. And we'll dive into that a little bit more as we go. But after the game, interestingly enough, the head coach of the Patriots, a little Belichick-esque, Gerard Mayo, said that Brissett, although he was hurt in the game, the plan all along was him just to play as long as he did.
Was the plan for Jacoby to just play the first series, or was that as a result?
No, that was the plan. We were going to play Jacoby a series or two and get Drake in.
Would he have been able to play?
He would have been able to continue.
What's his health status right now? Is he?
I talked to him. Look, we'll see tomorrow. You always feel a little bit more sore the next day, but he said he was good. We'll find out tomorrow.
How concerned are you about the offensive line, Gerard?
I think it is a concern. I think that the biggest concern for me, it's not the X's and O's of what to do. It's just the lack of discipline that they showed today.
Tough scene for the Patriots. Tune in to Scott Farrell, 3 o'clock Eastern, Kaplan and crew, 1 o'clock Eastern, for the latest. Maybe we'll get a starting quarterback decision out of the New England Patriots today. Meanwhile, did you bet Keegan Bradley to win the BMW championship over the weekend? If you did, you're probably celebrating somewhere. He was 125-1. He hasn't won a tournament in over a year. Last man in the field. Keegan Bradley ends up taking home the BMW championship. So congrats to him. Not a pick that I saw given out anywhere. And yeah, he should celebrate. That's what you do when you're 125-1. Meanwhile, let's get to the latest in shoe deals. Cooper Flagg signs a New Balance deal tied closely to his home state in Maine, manufacturing a 25-mile from his childhood home in Newport. Congrats to Cooper Flagg. He cashes in with New Balance. Now, let's get back to NFL here. Nick Chubb, who, of course, had a gruesome injury last season during one of the games in the NFL last year for the Cleveland Browns. They thought that he would miss at least a year of time, and that does look like it's going to be the case. This morning, Chubb was placed on the PUP list, physical, unable to perform. So that means that he's ineligible to play the first 4 games of the season for the Cleveland Browns. So more of a Cleveland Browns note, even a fantasy football note for you there. Hey, the Kansas City Chiefs are bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster. Didn't see this happening. Juju had a cup of coffee with Kansas City previously. He is back now with them, potentially 3rd, 4th wide receiver. Jamar Chase is back at practice with the Cincinnati Bengals. Their social media account yesterday putting out some pictures with Chase back. He's expected to be with the team this week as they continue to talk about a long-term extension. As of now, there is no extension to be had. CeeDee Lamb, same situation, no deal with him as well, although his teammate, Dallas Cowboys defensive back DeRon Bland, who had such an incredible season for them last year, is out 6 to 8 weeks with a stress fracture in his foot. So Cowboys are a team to keep an eye on to see if they pick up a defensive back to replace him off the waiver wire this week. Meanwhile, did you catch any of the college football action this weekend? Lots of underdogs covering and even one winning outright. Georgia Tech this weekend goes to Ireland and beats Florida State. Who saw this one coming? Our producer Frank apparently did. Had apparently a money line on that thing, not me. Yeah, exciting game. Best game of the weekend was the first game in Ireland, right down to the wire. Less possessions in the game. Maybe it's a timing issue. We saw the 2-minute warning in play, different clock stoppage in college football. But needless to say, Mike Norvell, after the game, unhappy with his FSU performance and said they just simply didn't make the most of every possession they had.
Just the game in general was a very limited possessions, and so the importance of every snap in that game was monumental. And I think we had seven drives in the game. Offensively, obviously they did a good job there. We scored late, and being able to finish with the ball in their hands and had the opportunity at the last second kick. So. It's for our football team. It's about where our response goes from here. And obviously it's we're all hurt. I mean, you come, you work, you want to start off the season a certain way, and we came up short of that tonight. And I think a lot of that Georgia Tech team and the players that they have and the things they've done, and they played well tonight.
One of the bigger wins for Georgia Tech in years. Meanwhile, the Virginia head coach has named a new starting quarterback. It is Anthony Calandria. He's going to start Saturday over veteran Tony Muskett. He played eight games last season as a true freshman. He starts for the Cavaliers this week. A very peculiar story out of Boulder, Colorado. The university says that they are banning a newspaper columnist from the Denver Post named Sean Keeler from asking questions to Deion Sanders, the head coach, and other people in their program, saying that some of his questions were inappropriate, and also his reference to Sanders as Deposition Deion, the Bruce Lee of BS, false prophet. Again, these are his words, Planet Prime, Deion Kool-Aid, etc. They say the ban is indefinite. I believe there is an amendment in place here that doesn't allow this sort of thing, but I guess we'll keep an eye on it for you throughout the week. Never heard of a university not allowing a reporter to ask questions. But apparently this would certainly change things if they allow this to happen. All right, let's get to the Big 12. They're in talks with UConn about joining the league in all sports. According to ESPN, no vote yet for the Huskies, but if they do join, it certainly would be a big deal for them if they end up changing conferences, because Huskies football, not that good over the last, 5, 10, 15, 20, forever years. Oh my gosh. Imagine the Little League World Series yesterday. I mean, a heartbreaker for Taiwan. They went right down to the end of the 9th inning. Congrats to my home state of Florida. Lake Mary ended up winning this thing, but they won on an error. Pitcher threw it over to first. There was no one there. Everybody crying on the field. I've been through this before, so really hard for me to talk about. I will a little bit later. Okay, so Aaron Judge, is he going to hit 75 home runs this season? That's the pace right now. He's got 51 home runs. We haven't even hit September. He hit 2. And so Juan Soto hit 1. Stanton hit 1 as well. The Yankees clobbered the Rockies. Not a surprise. Astros beat the Orioles 6-3. They split a 4-game set. Jackson Merrill is still red hot. Another huge hit for him. He's got the most clutch hits in baseball this season and the most tied or go-ahead hits in the 9th inning in all of baseball. They walked off the Mets yesterday. And the White Sox lost yesterday, and now they are 31-100. And they need 12 more wins somehow to avoid tying the 1962 Mets, but don't know that that's going to happen. U.S. Open is underway in Queens. Alcaraz is the favorite to win on the men's side. That's not a surprise there. This lawsuit continues between Fanatics and Marvin Harrison. They say that he signed a paper that entitles them to sell his stuff. He said his dad did it. He wouldn't have the right to. It's a confusing story. Google it if you want. Angel Reese, by the way, had 4 rebounds on 1 possession. 4 on 1 possession last night. Her 20 rebound streak was extended yesterday. The Aces beat the Sky 77-75. Angel Wilson with the buzzer beater there. All right, coming up next, we dive into quarterbacks in the National Football League. What else? Pittsburgh's quarterback, New England's quarterback, controversy surrounding all of this stuff. Always fun to talk about. We're going to do it next with Jacob Camenker from Sporting News. So stay with us here on Sports Grid as we're off and running here on this Monday. We'll be with you until 12 o'clock Eastern, and that's when the early line takes over. We'll be right back after these quick messages. Don't go away.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the 5th leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
NFL kickoff is 1 week from Thursday, and most teams in the National Football League have announced who their starting quarterback is going to be. It feels like there's 2 teams left that have yet to make that final determination unless there's a story we haven't heard of yet. Let's bring in Jacob Camenker to see if we can get to the bottom of the final 2. Jacob, do you think that's fair? Do you think Pittsburgh, New England, are those the 2 teams at this point? I think we are making an assumption on both at this point, but we don't have anything official, right?
No, neither team has officially named their starter. We kind of think we know which direction both teams are going in, but we've been known to see curveballs in the past. I know a handful of years ago when Cam Newton was with the Patriots, everyone thought he was going to be named the starter, and Mac Jones was put ahead of him. So you never know. Sometimes coaches have a last-minute change of heart, but until we hear the answers in Pittsburgh and New England, we're going to wonder, are they going to stick to their original plan? Or are they going to go with maybe the flashier, more exciting option?
Yeah, and it's interesting. We'll start with Pittsburgh because Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback. And the fact that he hasn't done it tells you just how close this is. I mean, to me, that's the story here, is that we're probably going to hear, I'm going to guess, Jacob, tomorrow or today that Russell's named the starter and he goes into the season as the starter. But make no mistake about it, I think, Jacob, Justin Fields is going to play this year. And I think the leash on Russ is probably as short as any quarterback in the NFL.
I agree with you there. I think Russell Wilson will probably be named the starter. Mike Tomlin has been adamant throughout this whole process that his plan was always to start Russell Wilson. After signing him in free agency to that minimum contract, the plan was, we're going to start Russell Wilson this year. I thought trading for Justin Fields to back him up was a smart move because now you have two quarterbacks who, if they can, one, live up to his potential and the other regain the form he once showed as a Super Bowl winning quarterback, you figure one of those guys might pan out. And if not, you have to draft someone to replace them. But I thought both were good gambles, but the Steelers' offense in the preseason really was not very good until that last game where both of them kind of had their flashes. I think the telling thing is Russell Wilson played one series in that finale against Detroit. He completed two passes, both to George Pickens on a touchdown drive, came out of the game. After that, Justin Fields played 3 drives, led 1 touchdown drive, but had a botched snap at one point. So I think Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Yeah, I will give Tomlin some credit. He usually does not have that quick hook. So I don't think it'll be like immediately, but 2 games, maybe 3 games would be the most for me. Okay, so Gerard Mayo last night, final preseason game, said that Jacoby Brissett, the plan all along was for him to come out even though he was hurt, and that, he's the starting quarterback. And then this morning he went on a radio show, Jacob, saying that Drake May has clearly outplayed Jacoby Brissett. So, I don't know which way they're going to go here. It seems to me that Drake May is the starter. The guys here, we were talking about this before, Jacob, and my point is that I do think that that's going to end up happening, but Jacoby Brissett, Jacob, as you know, is a beloved player and a leader in the NFL for a long time. And so from a respect point of view, I think that that's probably what's going on right now, is they're figuring out the right way to do this. But when you're so, loved by your teammates and you're running the quarterback room, it's really hard all of a sudden just to go another direction. I'm going to guess they will. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or the next day, but a little bit. People are probably saying, Craig, what are you, crazy? It's Jacoby Brissett. But that's the way I view it. I view this, quarterbacks like this, they just want to make sure the right way is handled.
I think you have a good point there. And I've kind of been in the camp all along that has thought Jacoby Brissett's going to open the season as a starter. And I still think, even despite what Mayo has said about Drake May, and despite May really performing well and getting better as the preseason goes along, I think Brissett is going to open the season as a starter. And I think there's a very specific reason for this. And it has everything to do with the supporting cast around him. The Patriots' offensive line is a mess right now, and it will get better when David Andrews is put in the game. But they've got guys playing out of position because they want Vidarian Lowe, I think, to be their left tackle. But when he's out, what they've had to do is move Chuks Okorafor from right tackle to left tackle, move Mike Onwenu from right guard to right tackle. Cole Strange is out. Sidy Sow has hurt his ankle in this last game, and he exited the game in a walking boot. So we don't know if he's healthy. So this offensive line could be extremely problematic. So I think Gerard Mayo might be saying, yeah, May might give us the best chance of winning, but we have to be sure he can be protected well enough, or he's going to turn into another Mac Jones or David Carr or someone of that ilk, where you just don't want to stunt his development. So I think between that and the respect that you mentioned that Brissett has as a long-term veteran, I think he's going to be the starter at the beginning of the season. And then if the Patriots struggle in the first 3 to 4 games, then I think they make the switch when the offensive line is a little healthier and has more continuity. But this one's going to be fascinating to watch because Mayo has kind of flip-flopped on his opinion in the last 24 hours. So really could go either way.
Yeah, fair points by you on the offensive line, too. You don't want to see your quarterback killed in the first couple of weeks. So the odds to win the Rookie of the Year have significantly shifted in the last week or so since the preseason. With Jaden Daniels playing as well as he has, he's moved up to 6-1 to win the Rookie of the Year. We know he's going to be the starter. We knew that all along, but he's looked really good, Jacob, and so has Bo Nix. So he's moved up to 11-1. And now this morning on FanDuel, Drake May is up to 14-1 to win the Rookie of the Year. So look, Caleb Williams is the favorite. He was a top pick in the draft. But I'm here to tell you, even Harrison, I think that this is a wide open contest. If I'm making a bet today, I'm not betting Caleb Williams.
I wouldn't bet him at those odds either. I really like the idea of backing Jaden Daniels because you're getting 6-1 odds on a guy who's going to be an elite scrambler at the NFL level. We know he has arm talent and can make any throw too, but often you see the guys who are electric playmakers with their legs kind of become better players at the pro level quicker because they can be a dual threat quarterback. Williams is great on the move too, but I mean, if you're talking about this competition now, I think it's more of a coin flip than these odds suggest. So give me Daniels all day.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's going to be a fun competition this year, and it may come down to the end. Jacob, great to see you, catch up with you, and we'll do it again soon and talk about the first week of the NFL season. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Greg. Take care.
All right, we'll be right back with the sound off next.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment, a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton, who's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Time to get into some of the hot topics trending on social media. We'll talk a little National League wildcard, a quarterback competition that did not go in the favor of the way that one quarterback wanted to, and also the latest on the Detroit Lions. It's time now for the SportsGrid Sound Off. All right, and down the stretch they come in Major League Baseball. We're going to be hot and heavy for the baseball playoffs as football gets underway over the next couple of weeks. It appears as though a lot of the playoff positioning is set in both the AL and NL, but there's still some questions to be had, especially one of those questions will be the final spot in the National League wild card. Our social media correspondent Christian DeBlock checks in on a couple of teams that are trying to make their way into October.
The final wild card spot in the National League is going to one of two teams, the Atlanta Braves or the New York Mets. The Giants, the Cardinals, and the Cubs are still in it. But with just over a month to go, the gap seems a little too big to overcome. This week is a crucial one for the Mets. It begins in Arizona against the Diamondbacks team that is 25-8 since the All-Star break. The Mets trail the Braves by 2.5 games. If that balloons to 4.5, 5.5 before next weekend, that might be it for them. This is also a difficult period for the Braves. 3 against the Twins in Minnesota, and then 4 against the Phillies in Philadelphia. With 31 games to go, the Mets need to have a sense of urgency and close the gap this week. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks very much. We'll keep an eye on the NL races as the weeks roll on. Meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on the National Football League. This is a huge week for cuts and trades in the NFL, players that don't make rosters. We're looking all around the league for some of maybe the better players let go. Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions has some big decisions to make as well, weighing in very heavily on him as he has to make some final cuts.
I told them in the locker room, you wish you'd keep everybody, but that's not the way it works. And they have mine and this coaching staff, Brad's respect. I mean, for everything they've done, man, I respect the hell out of them, and we appreciate it very much. Put themselves out there and throw their bodies to the, inevitably we will keep some guys, and then there'll be some guys that make our practice squad, and it may not taste good at first if you're one of them, but we're looking for the 69 best players we can find, and we're going to need all of them, and they will play for us, whoever those guys are, and so that is important to us. So anyway, I'm proud of them, and now this is a tough time that's coming up next 48 hours here. So
we'll find out. Lions, will they cut a player that ends up somewhere else? Looks like other teams are getting ready to do the same thing. One player not going to be let go is the backup or the third-string quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Seems like Jarrett Stidham, wherever he has played, has done a pretty good job, whether it has been the Raiders or the Broncos, but he did not win the starting quarterback job. That goes to Bo Nix. And it's not that it was unexpected, I suppose, but Stidham himself says that he still believes that he can and should be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
I think they know what I can do. I think I displayed that last year whenever I was asked to come in and play the last 2 games, and then, throughout practice, throughout training camp, OTAs, the whole thing. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go out there and do what I do. I'm very confident in what I can do and, do whatever I can to help this team.
Right now, it would appear that Stidham is the backup or the third-string quarterback in Denver. His point is fair. If you look statistically, wherever he has played and whenever he has played as the backup when another player has gone down, or in last year's case, when Russell Wilson's gone bench, he's done a pretty good job. But in the end, every team is looking for that shiny new toy. Maybe Stidham has a career like Gardner Minshew, where he ends up on different teams starting at different times before the heir apparent comes in. Who knows? But needless to say, that's the latest in the National Football League. All right, coming up next here on the show, we've got Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. We'll go over the very latest on sports betting in Missouri with some new updates there, also in Minnesota as well as Louisiana. And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to dive into the Denver Broncos season win total. Can they get over the hump this season? How much has Sean Payton have this team improve going into the season? Cody Roark, who is a reporter for Mile High Sports and also the host of Locked On Broncos, joins us coming up in about 15 minutes from now as we dive into the latest there. And then, of course, we will have our final thoughts on Last Licks. We'll dive into more topics as well. So stick with us here on NewsWire as we take a quick time out here on the show, but plenty more to come right after this.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on,
He doesn't just get two, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot on the fifth leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got the very latest on sports betting in Minnesota, Louisiana, and as we bring in Pat Evans, also the latest in Missouri. As Pat has, been on the show last couple of weeks, we've been talking about Missouri and getting closer to at least the showing up on the ballot, but that seems to be in trouble as well. Oh no, Pat, is it possible that this doesn't even get to a vote? What's going on here?
I mean, there's a slight possibility, and as I kind of go into it, I think it's a little bit questionable, this whole lawsuit, but of course that's why it's going to be heard in court. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about this a lot, to your point, just because as I talked about last week on the show, there's no, opening up of any U.S. markets anytime soon. And this is kind of the next frontier of possibilities, because it's going to be on the ballot in November, and Missourians can say, hey, yes, we want this, with a simple majority. Now, what happened was, earlier this month, the Secretary of State certified the signatures and the ballot question to be on the ballot. Well, last Thursday, we learned about a lawsuit that was filed by a couple of political consultants in the state, and they're arguing that the certification process for the ballot question was messed up, basically. They said that Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft used 2020 gubernatorial election results to determine how many signatures are needed in each congressional district. To get on the ballot, they needed 8% of votes that were cast in the governor's election in 6 of 8 congressional districts. Well, that's all fine and good, right? But now they're saying that he ended up using a new redrawn congressional map that was done after that gubernatorial election. And because of that, they're falling short in 2 extra congressional districts. So they would only have 4 of 8 satisfied. And so they're claiming that this is a null and void and that this should not be on the ballot. This is a lawsuit against the Secretary of State. Winning for Missouri Education, which is the committee that has pushed the signatures and driving this whole question. They filed a motion to intervene. The court said, yeah, they can certainly intervene. And then on Friday, there was a hearing set for September 5th. So obviously this ballot question isn't up until November. So the September 5th hearing will probably tell us a whole lot. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give legal opinions, but it is curious that this is only regarding one of the ballot questions that is on the ballot, because you would assume that if they're using it for this, they would use it for the other ones. So that's a kind of a question to kind of leave up in the air and see if anybody answers that at the higher level. Again, I don't know. It's a very curious lawsuit, and certainly something we kind of expected. We don't know who this is coming from. I mean, we know the consultants who filed it, but we don't know if there's a higher party involved pushing this. I think I had mentioned at one point, I'd heard rumors, and they're still unsubstantiated, that there would be some major opposition to this ballot movement, which, right now the polls show it's a fairly split issue. So could it survive a major push against it? We don't know. But yeah, a lot of attention, as we mentioned last week, is being paid to Missouri, because this is really the only frontier we're looking at that has a potential to open up, even early next year. It's a complicated mess at the moment. So we'll see what happens in the next month or two, and if it ends up on the November ballot as it is right now.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. And again, we're following, hoping that, some state can get this thing legalized. I think it's in everybody's best interest. And if it's not Missouri, maybe it's Minnesota, although we've been waiting on Minnesota to have this done now for a couple of years. And boy, are we doom and gloom today, Pat? Because I think that we're going to be talking about Minnesota coming up short again, too.
That's a good question. Again, the past 2 years, I've come on this show and said I think it's a pretty good chance that Minnesota legalizes, and then they didn't. So it's a very complicated state, as we've detailed many times. You need, as in any state, you need bipartisan support across the aisle to legalize sports betting, because there's, naysayers on both sides who don't like gambling issues. I talked to one of the leading representatives who's a sponsor of the bill recently, and he kind of laid out what's happening. He said that we weren't as close as maybe some media suggested at the end of this last session. We had heard there was a deal on the doorstep and it was done. But he said, I know there were multiple people who didn't want it done. I don't know why. I don't have the answers, but we're going to continue to work to make sure it happens. It seems like the tribes are still on board. There's huge questions about the election this year. One, there's the, elephant in the room of Tim Walz, a vice presidential nominee, and could be in the White House come January when the session starts. And that changes things a little bit, because you get some Minnesota Senate changes. So you might have a couple special elections that could sway the Senate back from being Democrat farmer labor controlled to Republican, which would throw in some wrenches when it comes to the tribal stuff. The tribes want to get this done while Walz or this DFL gubernatorial office isn't involved, because they want to have exclusivity. Now, the sponsor told me, the tribes, if the Republicans take control of any of the chambers or whatever, they could launch sports betting on their own if they wanted to, but then the Republicans could go ahead and open it to the horse racing tracks and card rooms that we've talked about, want a piece of it, but have only been getting a little bit of revenue share from this.
Right.
So there's a lot of little tiny moving parts here that, the election can change things. The tribes can at any point say, well, we don't like the way we're doing this. The Republicans can dig in their feet, which it seems like they have in the past, because they don't like the pieces they're getting for the horse racing tracks. What was of note is all the representatives are up for re-election this year. So this representative told me he's knocking on doors in the suburbs, and he said there's one issue, well, two issues actually, that every suburban male talks about. One is sports betting and one is net neutrality. He says it doesn't matter the party, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. They want sports betting. And he thinks that could be a big movement for some of these politicians who are out there trying to get votes. If they're hearing this from a lot of people, maybe it does sway a few more voters to the positive. But yeah, we're just at a weird time in this industry right now and we'll talk about it in a second, we're kind of pivoting to online casino, because a lot of the low-hanging fruit is gone. We've got Minnesota that could get done. We have Missouri that could get done. We just saw Nebraska kind of fall short. They could get it done early next year, but that again would be till 2026. Georgia, mess, there's all these states that could get it done, but there's so many roadblocks in the way that now, we're just in a really weird spot in terms of U.S. sports betting expansion.
Yeah, and we can't complain about a state like Louisiana or Mississippi. I mean, at least they have something going on there, but they're trying to get online casino legislation going as well, aren't they?
Yeah, so there was a bill earlier this year in Louisiana to set up an iCasino study. Those meetings should be starting up soon, probably before October. They're charged with putting together a report for the session that starts next year. Again, this is kind of one of those things. It's just we've heard a lot about, states having revenue shortfalls and everything, and where's a good place to get that, especially in a state like Louisiana that has a robust casino market. It kind of makes sense to go ahead and try to expand it a little bit more. So we'll see what the study group comes up with. It should be an interesting discussion, as I've seen in a couple of other states. It wouldn't surprise me. I had heard rumblings that Louisiana is one of those early candidates. We have 7 states that have online casino. We've heard Louisiana is one of the ones that could be next. It could be as early as next year.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, Pat, great stuff. As always, thanks for coming on NewsWire. We'll see if next week we have some better news. No doom and gloom, Pat Evans. Better news.
I'll try. I'll try.
Pat can't make sports betting legalized over the country. Can't happen. All right. Sports betting is legalized in Denver, Colorado. Of course, they've got everything going on there. Coming up next, do they have a good football team? We'll be joined by Cody Roark, who covers the Broncos from Mile High Sports, also does a great podcast on the Locked On Network. We'll talk about what to expect for the Broncos this season. Stick with us here on NewsWire. We dive right into all of the hot topics of the National Football League every day. And tomorrow it's Broncos Talk. Today it's Broncos Talk, in fact. 10 seconds from now? Probably not. 2 minutes? Yes. We'll be right back.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
Shot of the 5th leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match.
14.
Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We've got Cody Roark, who is very busy getting ready for the upcoming NFL season, hosting on the Locked On Network, the Denver Broncos, also covering the Broncos from Mile High Sports. And Cody, I'm not going to take a guess what your salary is yearly. I'm not going to do that. But what I'm going to guess is that if you got paid by the amount of times you said Bo Nix's name in the last couple of months, You'd be a very wealthy man. I don't care what they would be paying. I mean, the amount of buzz this guy has gotten has been insane. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I mean, I think I could retire at this point if that were the case, based on that. And this was even before he was drafted. This was dating back to the pre-draft process. And look, Bo has been very impressive early on so far from what we've seen from him. Really from day one when he came in, you start to say, okay, hey, he looks like he could be a good fit with Sean Payton. And then, going through training camp, you're going to go and you're going to take some lumps a little bit. He had a couple of slow days where, he's like, all right, hey, he's still trying to pick up the offense. And then we've just seen him get more comfortable to the point he really ran away with the quarterback competition between Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, and him. And he's looked every bit the part. He's looked comfortable. And obviously in the 2 preseason games we've seen him play in, he operated Sean Payton's offense very efficiently. And there's some exciting pieces around him. So it's going to be a very exciting time. I think right now in Denver, there's a lot of fan buzz going on. Will it translate to the regular season? That is the big question, though.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Before we move on to like the rest of the team, I don't want to do quarterback talk for 15 minutes. Is there a chance, Cody, before the season begins that they don't carry all 3 of these quarterbacks? It seems sort of odd that they would have it almost like they have 2 backup quarterbacks, 3 guys on the roster. It is unusual, no?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what your team's circumstances look like, right? I think for the Broncos right now, a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, who looks ahead of being, a rookie, doesn't look necessarily like a rookie in certain phases, but I mean, you have to ask yourself the question, okay, hey, do you value having 3 QBs on the roster? I think everyone's going back to what happened in the playoffs between the Eagles and the 49ers a couple of years ago, where Brock Purdy ruptures that ligament inside his elbow, and all of a sudden he can't throw the football anymore. And they don't have enough quarterbacks because their backup quarterback gets knocked out of the game. It's rare you run into that situation, but we have seen a trend over the last couple of years where more and more quarterbacks are playing. I think it was 66 total players at the QB position played last year. You have 32 teams, so everyone's backup essentially got in at one point, or teams went through a few players. You can have another player on your practice squad, which I anticipate Denver's going to have 2 QBs on their active roster. I think it'll be Bo Nix, and then maybe up in the air right now between Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. That's the big decision. Or Sean Payton told us after yesterday's preseason finale where the Broncos won 38-12 that he sees all 3 of them making it. Not sure how much of that is coach speak. Not sure how much of that is maybe to drop some potential trade interest for one of those 2 guys behind Bo Nix. That's the waiting game right now. And we're waiting to find out here in the next 24 hours how it's going to shake out, because roster cuts 90-53 take place due by 2:00 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow. So a lot of shuffling will be will be going on right now.
Yeah, we're going to have a busy show, I'm imagining, tomorrow on that. As far as the additions are concerned, it doesn't feel like the Broncos did a ton. It was more like addition by subtraction, of course, Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy. And look, the Broncos are going to have their hands full. I mean, Vegas and the people who make the lines, as you know, Cody, are not stupid. Their season win total is 5.5. So we understand that this could be somewhat of a rebuild situation, even if the Broncos were to have a good season and are above those expectations, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, probably the most that they could possibly win. Who are the big impact players that you see that may surprise some people this season on Denver, either on the offensive side or defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I'll start off on the offense. I think Nix will be an instant contributor, but you're going to have, I think, the idea for Sean Payton is with Javonte Williams fully healthy, being 2 years removed from a major knee injury, went through last year, had his lowest yard per carriage output of 3.6 yards per carry last season. The run game wasn't there for Denver. You can make the argument the subtracting Russell Wilson from the equation has been the biggest addition for the Broncos, even though it's a huge financial hit. When you talk about dead cap money, Denver has made some moves. They've acquired some young pieces. They've rebuilt their trenches in the defensive line. If I had to give maybe an offensive guy who I think will contribute at a high level this upcoming season, I think it will be running back Jaleel McLaughlin behind Javonte Williams. Just a change of pace guy, very fast. And once he gets to that second level, if you're not there, he's gonna gash you for a big gain. But Denver's idea on offense this year is to wear you down with the run, carve you up with the pass. And if they can get that run game going, that's going to be a very big strength on that side of the ball. I know it's a 5.5 wins. A lot of the major sportsbook sites, I feel like it's an easy over, even if it is 6 or 7 wins. So the idea and the optics right now, there's a lot of buzz generating right now about Denver. Look, week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks, that's not going to be an easy test, especially on the road. A new defensive coordinator that has a really good system and some players that can make some plays. And it's the loudest place in football. So, not necessarily the best way to start off your season.
Right.
But if the Broncos can clear that hurdle, there's going to be some excitement.
Yeah, let's end with this. I'll pose it to you this way. If Bo Nix's top targets on the field offensively are not Williams and Sutton, who are the others, Cody? Who are the other potential weapons for him?
Yeah, look, I think you're going to keep an eye on Tim Patrick, who's missed the last 2 seasons. 1 year he had an ACL. Last year in training camp, tore his Achilles. He's looked really good coming back into the system here. And obviously had a good preseason showcase last week against the Green Bay Packers. And Josh Reynolds, the offseason addition coming over from the Detroit Lions. I mean, Denver's got size at the wide receiver position. And obviously while Cortland Sutton is, a prime favorite with his explosiveness, his size, if he gets attention, Tim Patrick and guys like Josh Reynolds, I think, can take advantage of some of the matchups they'll get against smaller defensive backs, especially playing underneath the formation a little bit. I would say the target share would go Cortland Sutton as the primary guy, but then I think you will get Tim Patrick and I think Josh Reynolds as those second and third options in terms of target volume this upcoming season.
All right, fair stuff. Great stuff, Cody. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
All right, Cody Roark, catch him on Locked On Broncos. Coming up next, history in baseball will be made. Same player playing for 2 different teams. Kind of odd to see this happen in a box score. It's going to happen for the first time ever. Also a big call-up in Major League Baseball. Father and son combo playing for the same team in history. I'll have that next. You're watching NewsWire on SportsGrid. Don't go away.
What a chance it is for Adam Paxton and Victor Tingsham to pick up their first weekly titles. Adam Paxton, well, it's been the dream debut so far for him. For Victor Tingsham, he'll feel like this is a moment a little while coming. A place in the final up for grabs for one.
You can do it. Make that double 18 away for a place in the final.
Wesley Plaisir was beaten, knocked out by Mike Warburton in a last leg decider.
Play. That is what they are playing for. They are playing for the trophy. They are playing for the big prize pot, and they are playing for a place in the £25,000 Champions Week.
97.
There is a point you feel that reality will surely kick in for Adam Paxton. He's here on debut. He watches the Super Series almost every single week. He was happy just to be playing in a group. This could be the leg that we talk about at the end of the night as being the one that changed the final, because Adam Paxton has just gone cold at the moment.
Bang on cue.
He doesn't just get 2, he gets the lot.
Adam should take out the 16 out. If not, Mike's just behind him.
He shot on the 5th leg.
Can Paxton deliver one of the biggest moments of his career so far? He can. Double 12. What a moment that is from Adam Paxton. Mike Warburton was looking at 60 to win the match. Paxton, here's your moment. He approaches the hockey with confidence, with time, and delivers. Adam Paxton on debut. The boy, the fanboy, comes to the Super Series and wins.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. A couple of fun baseball stories we're going to end with today here on this Monday. Let's do that and dive into the latest that Magic Johnson had to say. You don't usually hear Magic Johnson saying much, to be honest with you. It's time now for some last licks. All right, we'll start off with the resumption of a baseball game. Just an ordinary baseball game back in June between the Red Sox and Blue Jays. Well, folks, stick with me here. I'm going to try to explain what's going to happen today. You're probably not going to get it. I'm going to try anyway. Alex Cora, Boston Red Sox manager, has announced that today Danny Jansen, catcher, formerly of the Blue Jays, will substitute for Reese McGuire at catcher, who's not on the team, for the resumption of the June 26th game with the Blue Jays, meaning that Jansen will not only become the first player to play for both teams in the same game in baseball history, but will also catch the at-bat that he started and must be pinch hit for. So there's a lot in play here because the pinch hitter doesn't inherit a 2-strike count. It will actually be charged to Jansen, who's the pinch hitter. So he essentially is the pinch hitter and the catcher at the same time in the same game in the same box score, although these are happening almost 2 months apart. Did you follow all that? That's the best I can do, folks. We only have a few minutes left here in this show. If you need a further explanation, you're going to have to look it up online. But that's exactly what's happening in the game today. Bottom line is first player ever to be a catcher, pinch hitter, same box score, 2 different teams, same day. That day is today. Magic Johnson, who is probably the most conservative speaker on social media, not politics. I'm talking about himself being careful. Doesn't ever say anything controversial on social media or anywhere else. He's got a big brand. He's a billionaire. He's made a ton of money. He doesn't like saying anything controversial. But he did. He did. Magic Johnson, when asked by ESPN's Stephen A. Smith in a sit-down interview for him, about comments by Anthony Edwards saying that Michael Jordan was the only athlete in the 90s to play. How about that? Boy, Anthony Edwards, poor job there. Magic Johnson said in response to that he pays no attention to people who have no rings. No attention to a guy like Anthony Edwards, who hasn't won an NBA championship, never won a college championship, and then Magic said, I don't even know if this guy's won a high school championship. Wow, Magic Johnson putting himself out there for the masses. Now, is Magic right about all this sort of stuff? I don't know if you have to win a championship. I mean, Charles Barkley in the NBA never won a championship. Hall of Famer Patrick Ewing, he was on the Knicks. Frank loves him. He never won a championship either. Lots of guys never won a championship. But obviously, Magic took exception to that. And good to see him saying something for a change. If you follow his social media account, it is like PBS. He never says, anything one way or the other. Congrats. And then that's just his brand. It's who he is. I'm a huge Magic Johnson fan, by the way. So I ain't going to bark up that tree. I think Magic's entitled to say whatever he wants. One of the greatest players ever to play. Saw him play in person as well. All right, I reported this yesterday, and I want to end the show with it because I'm super happy about it. Father and son combination coming to life here. Arguably the most popular player in Marlins history. His name is Mr. Marlin. It is Jeff Conine. His son, who is also in the Marlins organization and has been there for, I believe, almost 6 years, is getting called up. He's going to make his major league debut very soon, maybe even as soon as tonight in Denver, Colorado. This is the second father and son combination in Marlins history, and that's a lot considering they've only been around since 1993. The first was David Weathers, the pitcher, and his son Ryan Weathers. Tonight, it will be Jeff Conine, who is on his way right now to Denver, Colorado, to see his son Griffin Conine make his major league debut. I always love these father and son stories, major league player, minor league player, but it's really awesome because, again, it doesn't even have to be the Marlins. Happening in the same organization. Well done, I think, by the Marlins to make this happen. Griffin finally getting his shot after a long time playing minor league baseball. He's going to be 30 years old in a couple of years, but he will make his debut, and I'll be watching. Congrats to Griffin. Congrats to the Conine family. That will do it for the show today. Coming up next, we've got the early line followed by Kaplan and Crew at 1 p.m. Eastern. Scott Farrell is on deck at 3 o'clock Eastern with the latest in the NFL. Game time decisions, in-game live, and then game tonight on Sports Rage. Also, thanks to our director, Luke, and our producer, Frank. In addition, thanks to Jacob Camenker from Sporting News. And thanks to Cody Roark for coming on, talking some football with us. And in addition, thanks to Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. Hope you enjoyed the rest of your Monday. Got some great programming here on SportsGrid. Hope you stay tuned. I'll see you tomorrow morning for our next edition of NewsWire, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on SportsGrid. Have a great day, everyone. See ya.